that, I'll call the meeting to order and ask Evelyn to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please
Yes.
stand.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Evelyn. And I'd entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we will adopt the agenda. Next is the call to the public. Mary Lou, do we have anyone speak? All right, thank you. Then at this point, we are going to go into executive session briefly. So we're going to ask everyone to step out while we do that. Stay close. I don't think it will be terribly long. We need a motion to do that as well. So we have a motion to move into executive session.
So made.
Moved.
Second.
Ms. Walker, seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, folks. See you shortly. All right, we're back. Thank you for hanging in with us. Sorry to keep you waiting. Our next agenda item is consideration of the consent agenda. Items to be considered as a group. Any member of the board wish to remove any item from the consent agenda?
Mr. President, I would make a motion that we accept it as written.
Second that.
You broke up a little, Gladys. You move to accept?
Class.
Yeah. Do I hear a second?
Yes, second.
Thank you. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, we need a roll call on that one. Brandy, if you, I'm sorry. Mary Lou, if you would, please.
I'm sorry?
Roll call.
Yeah, yes.
Jerry Walker,
Yes.
Dan Miller,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Next item is policy for first reading, remote work policy. Brandy?
Good afternoon, Board President Dr. Bernard, governing board members, President Elliott, Mary Lou, staff, guests in attendance. This afternoon, I present the first reading of the following policy, which is our new remote work policy. As I mentioned, this is new to the college, and this is a result of coming out of the pandemic. We had a lot of requests for the opportunity to work remotely. So this is the first reading. It's for review only, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you may have.
Any questions from the board? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is a report from the college president. Dr. Elliott?
Good afternoon, everyone, governing board members and guests. I'm happy to announce that district-wide, we were able to erase $1.4 million in student debt to the college using CARES funds. This removes any previous holds that students may have had on their accounts, which will now allow them to re-enroll at CAC with a clean slate and attend tuition-free for a year. Because of that and the free tuition for this upcoming academic year, the admissions applications continue to increase, and many of our staff are working overtime and weekends to process applications and enrollments. And many in this room who don't normally process applications and enrollments have chipped in to help, myself included. So we're very appreciative of the true team effort at Central Arizona College. So because of that, we anticipate that our fall enrollment will be that of comparable enrollments before the pandemic. So it's good news. The pandemic did leave us with about 30% loss in student enrollments. So this is allowing us to make some progress in re-engaging our learners with the college and new learners as well. I also wanted to use the time today to recognize some employees and staff who have received awards since we were last together. And so if they're here, I'll have them stand and be recognized. But the first group of awards come from our managerial technical staff. It's called MTSA, and they are service awards. And these are peer-selected awards within that group. So we have Brennan Engel here today. He was the Rising Star Award. So if we can recognize Brennan as a Rising Star, and I will tell you, he has taken on what we call a degree audit. They call it something different in anthology, and I hear so many good things about how Brennan's managing that very complicated process for us. So thank you, Brennan. So he is definitely a Rising Star. Excellence in Leadership Award for Michelle Kennegard. I didn't see Michelle here, but if any of you have ever worked with Michelle, you understand why she received the Excellence in Leadership. And then the Distinguished Service Award was given to our own Miss Paula Brock, who's retiring after 27 years at the college. And some of you may not know this, but Paula's father, Paul Pierce, was one of the original governing board members appointed in 1961, and who the V building is named after. And we are sorely going to miss Paula, but she is smiling every day because I know she's looking forward to her retirement. Support staff initiated their first award this year, and they called it the Franny Peters Award. And many of you know Franny was a permanent fixture here at CAC. Oh, sorry, I got to go back. I missed an MTSA award winner, and this was probably inadvertently because his movie career is taken off, and I'll explain later. But the Terry May Service Award this year was given to Richard Moore in IT. And you may not know this, but Richard starred in a Paula's version of with the Star Wars, and he played Darth Vader very, very well. So apologize, Richard, for overlooking you. It was not intentional. Support staff, Franny Peters Award this year went to Sherry Perea. I didn't see if I see Sherry here. No, okay. And the faculty awards. This is an honor to be selected by your own faculty as Faculty of the Year, and that was Wendy Britt. And I don't think Wendy made it with us, but she is in the nursing department. And then, as you know, we have the George Friedel Awards, and these are given to faculty members every year, and these faculty are able to go to the League of Innovation and receive recognition there. And the awards for this year for the George Friedel was Joseph Fakosh, and I don't think Joe's here. He is the professor of history. Fotini Sorors, professor of biological sciences, and Skyla Teal, professor of reading. They're probably all in class teaching and imparting knowledge, and that's why they won these awards. Phi Theta Kappa also hands out national awards to our advisors, and I'm happy to announce that Joe Fakosh won an advisor award, Sandra Rath and Heather Moulton. I don't think any of them are here as well. So just let's do one last round of applause for all of our award winners. We're very proud of the faculty and staff we have at CAC, and I'm proud that they recognize each other through this system. And then the last thing I would like to recognize is members of our COVID response team. When the pandemic hit, me and the VPs met monthly, actually daily, wasn't it? For several months, and then at one point, when we realized that this could go on a lot longer than we had anticipated, I asked for volunteers to the COVID response team to have a team come together to meet weekly and then brief me and the VPs weekly. And so they've really carried some of the burden of the planning, the return to campus guide, the questions, taking the burden off of me and the VPs, and it was very much appreciated. They continue to meet, but I'm going to have them stand to be recognized. Domingo Barragon, Dr. Tina Berry, Barrington Campbell, I don't think Barrington's here, Rhonda Manili, Chief Roberts, and Rob Stevens. Thank you, guys. So with that, I'm happy to conclude my report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for Dr. Elliott from the board? Thank you, Dr. Elliott, and congratulations from the board to all of you. Well done. We appreciate you. Business Affairs Report, Mr. Wadka.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Mr. Chair, governing board members, Madam President, Madam Secretary, colleagues. Any guests? I don't see any guests. They all look like colleagues. All right, 4 reports this afternoon for information. First one is the monthly budget report. In your packets, you'll see the report for June 2021. Comparable to last year's June, we're about a slight increase of about 1.77%. Obviously, these are still unaudited numbers as we just closed the year out, and the auditors will be out shortly in the next few months looking over the figures. Some of the highlights, if you look at the items, are highlights that we've gone over the last several months. You know, tuition and fees obviously is a lot less revenue due to the reduced enrollment. We also, if you look at the state appropriations line, as I mentioned in the past, is lower because the fiscal year 20 figures include the one-time allocation. And in the auxiliary funds, same kind of deal, decrease in revenue due to the COVID with no dorm revenues being collected at all during the year, and also then a corresponding decrease in the expenditures. So would there be any questions on the finance report?
Questions for Mr. Wadka? Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. The second item are the awarded bids over $20,000. There are 24 of them for your review. I'm not going to read through every one of them, but I'll be happy to answer if there's any questions on the bids.
Any questions on those? Mr. Walker, go ahead.
$20,000 uniformly totally, or is that spread out
Over each individual purchase, and they're all detailed.
and the total came to 20,000,
Per each, over 20 per each.
over 20 per each?
Correct. The dollar amount is listed under the budget amount in the far right-hand column.
Any other questions? Go
Okay.
ahead.
The third report are the intergovernmental agreements. This is something that I present to the board on an annual basis. This is for the fiscal year ended June 30th of 21. This is a full listing of our IGAs, MOUs, LOIs, LOAs, whatever we have during the fiscal year. There's 15 of them. It lists out the purpose, the date, and an approximate value if there's a value to that particular agreement. Happy to answer any questions on the IGA.
Any questions for Mr. Wadka on any of that? Very good, thank you. Go ahead with the audit.
Okay, thank you. Well, now we get to the good part. This is going to take a while. In your packets, you will see both fiscal years 18 and 19. And I'll spend a little more time because the last time we reported on an audit, I believe we either have 2 or 3 new board members since the last time we did this. And I'll talk kind of in conjunction with both of them because there's a lot of similarities with 18 and 19. The first thing I want to do is I want to read the paragraph that's on the conclusion, which is the first thing included in the packet. And the conclusion is exactly the same language, both for the 18 audit and the 19 audit. It states, based on our audit, we issued opinions on the district's financial statements and federal expenditure schedule, concluding that the information in those statements and schedule is reliable. We also issued reports over the district's internal control and compliance over financial reporting and select federal programs, which identified internal control weaknesses over financial reporting and internal control weaknesses and noncompliance over federal awards that are explained on the next page. And I will get to explanations both on the financial statement along with the single audit. So the first thing I want to say is there's 2 audits each year. One is a financial statement audit, and one is a federal audit, which is called the single audit. For both 18 and 19, the financial audits received an unqualified opinion. An unqualified opinion is the best opinion you can receive. It's called a clean report. And I'll go through, there's actually 4 types of opinions. One is an unqualified, which is the best anyone can receive. The second one would be a qualified opinion. A qualified opinion is what we received for the single audit reports for both fiscal years 18 and 19. Now, a qualified report is still an acceptable report to lenders, creditors, investors, etc. But there is a qualification that's noted by the auditors. A third type would be a disclaimer of opinion, a disclaimer report, or a totally bad one would be an adverse opinion, which we've never had and never want to. So let me start with the financial side of things. And I'll start with the financials first. Both in 18 and 19, you'll see that we're in a very strong financial position. In 18, we had total assets of about $290 million. Total liabilities about $164 million, which left us with a net position, is what they call it, of $126 million. Now, of that 126, obviously not all of it is unrestricted, but 47 million of that, or approximately 37%, is what we call unrestricted and available to spend. Now, obviously, we can't spend it due to expenditure limitations, et cetera, but our rate was 37% in 18. At the end of fiscal year 19 audit, we had 292 million in assets, 155 in liabilities, so the liabilities decreased by about 8 million. So our district's net position increased to about $137 million, of which 44.9% was unrestricted, or about 61 million of the 136 is considered unrestricted dollars as of 6/30 of 19. So that's the good news on the financial side. And once again, the financial side are unqualified opinions, but the auditors did notice on a few things. And the first thing is the timeliness of the audit. I think that is something we've all talked about for the last couple of years with the implementation of the student system, and then 2 years after that, the financial system. We knew we were going to have a timeliness issue of filing the audits, but they've been filed, but obviously they need to list out that they were late. Also, on the financial side, in one of these years, the auditors noted what they will call misstatements. What I want to say about that is that, to me, they're non-material. They're not material misstatements. We can have an argument about what is material, what is non-material, but I look at the bottom line, what does the opinion say? And the opinion is unqualified opinion. So if it was a material misstatement, it wouldn't have been a clean opinion. But on the other hand, the other thing I look at is a big thing with when we started with the student system, which was November of 17. 2 years later, January, we started the financial system. So we didn't get on at the same time. So obviously there was some reporting issues that we did have, communication issues between the student system and the financial system. And if you recall, we are the first community college client for, they're called Anthology now, back then it was campus management. We're the first ones that implemented the whole suite of services. So what I look at is, where does our cash stand? And the most important thing to me always, and what we spend a lot of time, is reconciling the cash. Because of the not only the two systems, but also then you throw in the old banner system that we had in reconciliation. So the cash reconciliations, investment reconciliations, absolutely no issues with. So that was my key concern, is all the ins and all the outs of the dollars are accounted for. Were they accounted for in the correct expenditure bucket? Not necessarily. And that is something we have worked on, worked with the new system on how we can classify things, work with things. So just upfront and honest how that worked. But to me, it was always, as long as your cash is reconciled, you move forward. I think that's all I have on the financial statement audits. On the federal audit, which is called the single audit, and as I mentioned, both years, 18 and 19, have a qualified opinion. And the main reason for that is what they call the SFA, is the Student Financial Aid Grants. And they call them all together because it's a cluster of grants. And the issue that we had there was reporting enrollment data and also financial aid disbursement data to Department of Ed, but more in particular also to what's called the NSLDS, which stands for the National Student Loan Data System. So the auditors recognized that fact. We knew that fact existed. Also, when Dustin Research and Development started, one of his major projects was to see if he could reconcile that. And that has been corrected. That was corrected in December of 19. So we are still working on the fiscal year 20 audit. So that's just a forewarning, depending on the auditor's interpretation. Is 6 months getting it fixed good enough? Or will that be a finding also when the fiscal year 20 audit comes out, which we anticipate around the end of this calendar year? Typically, the way you weigh those things, if it's more than the majority of the year, which would be, what, 7/12, it wouldn't be a finding. It could go either way. We don't know. But that's just a heads up that those issues with the student financial aid reporting have been completely cleared up, but not cleared up till December of 19. So it could still appear as a finding potentially for fiscal year 20. No issues that we're aware of for fiscal year 21. That year just obviously ended a couple of months ago, and we're on target in getting that completed by no later than March of the next year, which would be right in terms of the cycles and not having any other additional late filings. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Wodka on the audit?
Mr. Chair, I have one.
Go ahead.
Well, congratulations on the glowing audits. I think this is commendable. I know all the work that went into it. But I do have a question. You had mentioned that some of the issues were due to late reporting because of the system setup and all that, and we know what struggle that was. But were you able to have the opportunity to inform the Auditor General of those late reporting, or was it so they knew before the audit actually occurred?
Yes, we've been working hand in hand with them this whole time, because essentially they were just either waiting on us when we had certain ledgers and everything else ready to send to them, and then depending on their availability and their audit schedule with other clients, they would come in. But they're totally on board with everything that's gone on. They were fully informed with the implementation of the system. In fact, they even talked to Anthology folks. Our auditors directly communicated with the company. I wanted to make sure that was good. And I do want to recognize that Louisa is in the audience. She's the Executive Director of Accounting, and I know she's gone through AGLL the last few years in a lot of this. But absolutely, that's one of the important things. The Auditor General, upfront and honest, knows absolutely all our struggles that we encountered with our company, and we had that company talk with them and continue to do so as we're finalizing 20 and going into 21.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Wodka.
Thank you, sir.
And our monitoring report. Dr. Gilliland.
Good afternoon, Dr. O'Diorn, members of the board, Dr. Elliott, and all of our colleagues. Thank you for allowing me to present this today. I was going to co-present with Dr. Cardenas, but it looks like it's just me today at this point, so I hope you'll bear with me. And thank you for putting that up there. I hope can we move forward and just show we just want to look at the graph. So what we're looking at in this particular monitoring report are three key three key indicators that we monitor at the college. These are kind of the mantras of both student services and of academics. We look at retention, we look at course completion, and we also look at our success or graduation rates. And these are measures that we measure ourselves by and that we're always looking to try to improve. And of course, we know these last year and a half have brought a lot of challenges for us, but we hope that we're going to be moving forward. We've held pretty steady, it looks like, although our reports go up through about 2018 for the most part here, 2019. Okay, so let's look first at just the graphs, the fall-to-fall retention. I'm just going to go through these really quickly, and then we'll talk about both the recent improvements and the planned improvements, because many of those improvements aim at all three of these measures, aim at both retaining students, helping them complete courses at the college level, and then graduating. Okay, so in our area of retention, the college has been hanging out somewhere around, sort of 70 to 73% for a very long time. Our most recent measure is at 73%. The Arizona average is closer to about 77%, and that is what we are aiming to be equal with. We're not that far off, but we're still below that average. So we are aiming to get to that point or to increase. Both CAC and Arizona average are higher than the national average by quite a significant amount. The national average hanging around 54% pretty consistently. So we're doing well, but we would like to do better, of course. We always want to do better in these regards. Can we look at the next graph? Yeah. Okay, so college level course success, and we are measuring just those courses that are truly at college level. We're not looking at any of our developmental level courses here. And again, we are hanging out just a little bit below the Arizona average, which is what we're marking ourselves against. We are at about 68% consistently in course completion, and the Arizona average is right about 79%, 79%. The board has asked us to reach 85%. That's in our monitoring goals, and we would like to be there too. And then finally, if we go to the next graph, our graduation rates, they're not where we would like them to be. Again, we are very close to we're actually above the national averages. We're at 24% in our most recent measure that's in 2019-20. The national average was just the year before that was at about 23%. The Arizona average is closer to 35% across the board, and the board has challenged us to reach 50%. A lofty goal, but we would like to be there as well, and I think we would all like to be actually at 100%. That would be wonderful. So we're going to continue to try to achieve those goals. Okay, I am going to move next to the improvements, and I won't go through all of them because they're there for you in the packet and you can read them, but I think that our improvements cluster in a couple of main categories. One of the most important things that's happened over the past year or so, of course, we've had the challenges of the pandemic and of students not, struggling to finish, not enrolling necessarily, so we've had all of those struggles we've dealt with, but we've had so many important markers of progress as well that I think we can be really proud of ourselves, and I think we're aiming towards a much better year this year in all of these regards. So one of the clusters is removing barriers for students that are financial barriers, and a lot of these were spearheaded in the student services area, and they have to do with scholarships and providing additional funding for students. We have just small things. We've removed the partial refund during drop ad week. It used to be the case that students who actually properly dropped their classes during the drop ad week they got most of their refund, but not all of it. And we're now giving them all that refund and allowing them to find a new course. We want to keep them at the college. We want them to switch that out and stay with us and move forward, to be retained and to be successful and to graduate. We have just recently, we also removed the hold restrictions so that students who have a small debt to the college were able to continue to register and move forward with classes, and that wasn't stopping them from coming into the college. Even more dramatically, there was the Clean Slate initiative, which just completed, and so students who had a remaining debt to the college at the start of this semester, they had an opportunity to wipe their slate clean, to get on board, to register for classes, and to move forward. And although we didn't include it in this list of improvements, of recent improvements and planned improvements, I have to think that our free tuition this semester and in the spring has dramatically added to what we will be able to achieve. We have students, well, as Dr. Elliott mentioned, we have so many students coming in that we have even the president helping get students registered. So it's that dramatic. We've been adding classes daily, and everybody's been on board working to get our newly appointed adjuncts on board through talent development, and just clear all those barriers and make sure that those classes are there. But students were able to come back, be debt-free. It's truly a new start for them, and then to actually take classes for free and have a $100 scholarship for books in the bookstore. So those are all huge financial barriers that I think are going to that are removed at the moment. Many of them will be removed going forward. And I think it will really help our community and our students. And, we're cheering everybody on and hoping for great success this semester. We've had some other initiatives that have been kind of, moving forward, but in smaller ways than I would have liked. One of them is the Open Educational Resource Initiative. But again, with CARES money, we were able to sort of give that a boost. We do have faculty who have either adopted or even written materials to use in their courses for free. With just a little bit of CARES funding, we had a large number of faculty jump on board this summer to create or adopt new materials. So increasingly, and I unfortunately don't have a number for you yet, but we will track that. We have many, many more courses that are using materials that do not cost anything at all for students. And a lot of these are, these are good resources. Many of them are peer reviewed. And so we're excited about that. And then the ones that our own faculty are creating, or they're adopting and creating all of the supplemental materials, because one of the downsides of the free materials is that most of them don't come with support materials for our faculty. So they're jumping in, they're creating things. There's just a lot of great energy around this. So when I first announced this initiative this summer, faculty who were not even teaching during the summer, 12 of them came forward immediately to say that they were willing to adopt or create new materials for their classes. And we have a lot more who have come on board since then. So, so that sort of fits into that financial, removing financial barriers and helping students to move forward without a lot of additional costs and that burden of the costs and or of taking out loans. We have other initiatives that are in process, both recent improvements and planned improvements. Of course, we have the ongoing work of guided pathways, and although you've been hearing about that for a couple of years, guided pathways seems to never be done. But it's not that we haven't finished. We've finished many stages of it, and we're moving on now to guided pathways, CAC Guided Pathways 2.0. We have our own revised version of guided pathways, and one of the things that we're doing is going through and cleaning up. In fact, there was a huge effort this summer to clean up the maps, to make them more consistent, to make sure that truly in the transfer programs that every credit counts for transfer, to streamline the certificates and to build those into stackable sorts of programs. And so we're going to see a new version of those pathway maps that are going to be out there. They're going to be more readable, more accessible, easier for students to work with, and easier for advising to work with, so that there will be, just more consistency in the way they're presented. along with the guided pathways, part of which was supported through our Title V funds, our grant funds through the Department of Ed. The Title V is also now supporting Achieving the Dream, which is another initiative aimed at student retention and success. And we have a new action plan that combines all sorts of projects in both student services and academics and really truly across the college as a team effort to help better support students and help support faculty in the classroom and help our advising efforts as well. We have new student success coaches that are a new group of employees that just a couple of them brought on board with the Title V money. And these are people who are going to be able to help step in and help students who are struggling, not just with content, but with all of the other things that students struggle with, a lot of soft skills and that sort of thing. And we are looking again, we are trying to, once again, remove the barriers of developmental level courses. We still have some foundations courses. We have probably still more prerequisites than we would like, and we're going to make a renewed effort this semester to clean those up and move forward so that there will be fewer barriers for students enrolling in classes so they can move forward in college level courses and find support in other areas to keep them in class and to keep them successful. Finally, just the other little cluster of things that have been very helpful are a number of initiatives that are providing support to students through chat, online chat. We've got expanded virtual advising and a program called Calendly, which allows students to, sign up for advising appointments and meet face-to-face, but over a computer with advisors, but to get that real-time advising help. And our library has taken on a lot of additional support for students in expanding their library hours through a new library chat. And they found that students are really using the evening and weekend hours, which we really didn't have available before. It's one of the benefits of the remote work is that we were having people working a lot more across the week. And so we're sort of shifting things a little bit. Nobody right now is being assigned a full-time remote schedule. What they're doing is they're doing the remote while they're in the library and doing other things. But some of them are taking it home with them and doing a little extra. So those are all really, really positive things. So I'm going to add one last, which is an initiative that is just getting going. We had our Caring Campus initiative, which took off just before COVID hit. It was a great initiative and had a lot of new had a plan for trying to help make us a more friendly and welcoming place. We didn't get to implement a lot of them because then we went to remote work, and so a lot of those were face-to-face sorts of initiatives, and I think those will all come back. But we have a second wave of that, which is the Caring Campus Faculty Project, which is just getting a start. And we have selected out our faculty who have 80% or better retentions and completions in their courses to talk to them about what did they do to help keep students. I had the privilege of interviewing them all during the summer. And I will say what was amazing is that across the board, no matter what they taught, their strategies fell into just a handful of, they were basically the same. And so whether they were teaching welding or, skilled trades or, one of the health careers or philosophy or, sciences, they were all very high touch. They were communicating very clearly. They were reaching out to students, and all of them maintained a fair amount of flexibility, never giving it away, never giving away the grades, but being there for their students and helping them through those difficult moments. And so this year we're going to launch an initiative. We're going to bring this group together to figure out how to help share that information out with all faculty so we can become a truly caring campus in our classroom as well. So I think I will stop there, and I'm open to questions.
Thank you. Any questions regarding the monitoring reports? Dan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a lot of questions about the free tuition, but I really only have one now. As you're gathering these new students and continuing with the free tuition, are there some plans on kind of looking at the statistics, new students, enrollment by campus, anything like that, that you might be able to report on next month or the month after possibly?
Yes, potentially. I don't know if it will be that soon, but we have been working with institutional effectiveness all the way through, and they are poised to help us gather data on, what happens when we bring students in this very large clump all of a sudden, and, maybe some of them didn't plan to return to school right now, but this was just too good to pass up. We want to make sure that they're doing well. We want to try to catch them early if they need added supports, and we hope that we will retain these students and that they will continue on with us and that they will reach whatever goal they have for themselves. So I think we're talking about, trying to capture a lot of measures. And actually, one of the things that I didn't mention that was listed in a recent improvement is a new dashboard that was created by our Director of Institutional Effectiveness. It's amazing. One can get lost in it because you can cross-reference many different factors and really look at what kinds of factors are influencing student success. So I think we're going to be using those, and we're going to be using expanded dashboards that I know are in process as well. So yes, I don't know when we'll be reporting, but we do plan to bring all of that forward. So
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Gilliland.
okay, thank you very much.
And that completes our agenda. Our next meeting is September 21st on the Maricopa campus, and we are adjourned.